What is happening, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and welcome to episode 182 of Expert Mentors Live. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Johnny?
Got Mr. Albie Stasek representing the west side of the 216 joining us.
Episode 182. Wow.
Crazy, isn't it?
Oh,
Crazy.
Man. Great job, brother. Great job.
Thank
you drove
you.
that train home, man. And
most people,
amazing content.
You know, most folks don't know, really the story, the backstory behind Expert Mentors Live. And I know when we had kind of kicked things off, Daniel, Beer, and Kyle, and they said, "Hey, we need to pour back into this amazing community, the Honey Badger Nation." And we've got so many amazing, talented, human beings in this community that really just want to give back. And typical Kinder fashion, he goes, "Well, if we want to stay consistent, I know one person that can run with it." And so, got my name thrown in the hat, and it's been an honor, and I've loved it. And we're not slowing down, so we're gonna hit 200 and keep going. But no, brother, I appreciate you making the time, jumping in, and really, something that's a hot topic and definitely something on our mind, something we're absolutely passionate about, something that has been kind of the cornerstone of everything that we've done for the past, almost 2 decades now. And that is around the power of events. And so, you and I were chatting a little bit, and you're talking about concepts, talking about connections, and I'm like, man, let's just talk about it. So I would love for you to kind of unpack, kind of what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and the real power of nailing events.
So, like many things, throughout our journey of learning and building businesses and helping other people's, and especially you, I'm sure, for being able to see behind the curtain on so many real estate agents and brokers' businesses. We've been doing events for a while, for a long time. And now when you connect the dots backwards, and now we're learning, the simple principles behind why it works. It's like little things are firing off, like as if it was a new idea, but we've been doing it all along. And what I mean by that is, we committed back in 2019 to doing one training event. And at the time we were doing them live every single month for the entire community of Northeast Ohio, where I've sold real estate my whole life. Mm-hmm. And our philosophy behind it really came from Shep Black, which was, train your competition better than their current broker does. And, you will attract them. And it worked. But, what we didn't really, I think that what we could have done a better job on, which is, I think, what we want to touch on today, are what are the components of a great event. Mm-hmm. And I think it starts with a concept. Yeah. And, Coach Burt went into this a lot with his person of interest training that he did. And he talks about concepts. Concepts, when you nail the concept, that's how you're going to nail the ideal client or ideal agent profile. Whatever it may be. So if your audience that you're targeting is sellers, for instance, these are people who are thinking of selling their home. Well, then your concept that you come up with, or all the concepts that you come up with, should focus on solving their number one and number two problems of that person looking to sell their house. In the case of real estate agents, it's no different. What are the number one and number two problems? What are their rock in their shoes? What's keeping them up at night? And your concepts that you come up with should, it should be the solution to that, right? That concept. And when it's a good concept with a good title and it has great content, I think that's where you have your winning recipe.
I couldn't agree more. And that's where a lot of people, I think, when it comes to an event, they just want to do an event without really sitting through and thinking, okay, who's our ideal audience, who's our target person, and what is the big, like you said, what is the big problem that is keeping them up at night. And sometimes they're not aware of what the problem is, so you kind of really already know. And that could also draw them in. So you bring them in and you help them become problem aware. And then once they're problem aware, then they realize, oh shoot, I need to find a solution. And that's where part of your event can be to help give them some content to move them in the right direction of helping them solve their biggest problem. And so I just want everybody to be real clear. Concept is a solution to solve a problem. And we can give a couple examples. So for example, let's use boot camp. Let's use NAEA boot camp, which is CHSA, CHBA. Well, the problem is being able to clearly articulate your value to buyers and sellers with a proven system to help them, really see your value. And the problem is that agents typically don't have the skill set, capabilities, tools, framework to go into a stranger's home and build rapport, articulate value, and get the prospective client to agree that you have the best solution to help them solve their problems. That's a great example. Another one that you've done, and I would love for you to touch on this, is when you look at the concept and you bring a panel together in your market. This has been probably one of your most successful events that you've ever done outside of, and we'll talk about Rock and Rescue, but your panel format is been a fantastic event. So unpack that a little bit. Like, what's the concept around that? What's the goal of doing the panel type of an event?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the goal, because that was the last piece of this, and we can circle back around to it at the end, because I want to answer your question. Is there always has to be a goal. What is the goal? I don't care whether it's a presentation where you and maybe one other person standing up and teaching the concept, or you're doing a panel, which we can dig into now. At the end, I can tell you where I went wrong. Where I went wrong is I didn't have an offer for them at the end. I wasn't pushing them towards something, because there should be a goal. And the goal, of any event is to bring people together. And so then why are they coming together? They're coming together to form, for community, for the sense of being part of something, to learn something, to either move them toward an opportunity or learn something to move them out of pain. One of those two. But these are just the reasons why people come together. But why are we throwing an event? We're throwing an event to build community, and there should be a goal. Right? At the end, there should be some kind of an offer. And we can get into what we're using right now,
sure.
Especially with our Rapid Funnel app, because it's built right into it and it's perfect for it. But to answer your question, the reason why panels are so, they're like one of my favorite things to do is, number one, they're easy. They're easy to put together. Whereas you don't have to go and spend literally hours upon hours upon hours putting a PowerPoint together and going through, editing it and making sure that it's right and that it shows up right and all these things. And then you have to actually present the material that goes along with that PowerPoint. I'm not saying those are bad. I'm just saying that they're time consuming. Mm-hmm. What's great about panels is typically you're going to be putting real estate agents or real estate brokers or team leaders on panels. And there's so many different ways you can go about putting a panel together. You could have a panel for, a lot of times what we see top producing panels, guys, girls, women that are out there killing it. It could be, there was just one here in Cleveland that was an all ladies panel. We did one in Nashville that was an all ladies panel. Those are great. Anything women in real estate, I love, because when I got my license in 1998, it was not a ladies world. And it's slowly moving into that, thankfully, because, let's face it. I mean, the ladies multitask much better than us men do. And that, I thoroughly enjoy working with these leading power play ladies of real estate. So if you do too, and you share that, do a panel, interview them, find out what are the challenges that they incurred at the beginning of their career because they were a lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, dig in. You're going to fill that place with other ladies who want to be like them, and make sure it's fire. Make sure that you're nailing the questions. Don't ask surface level questions, like ask great questions that are going to elicit great answers, and you're going to have people's eyes and ears glued to that front panel there.
Yeah.
So, that's what I was, anything
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah, you nailed it. And it's always start with the goal. And we usually, we look at what is the primary objective and then what is the secondary objective. And you really want to then make sure your offer is in alignment to the concept and the content. And so, for example, back to the boot camp example, we did, I think one of the last boot camps we did in Atlanta, that was working with Levi and Dan and the team together to drive that event. The very first phone call we jump on, and that was my first question was, what's the goal? What's the goal? And they kind of kicked around a little bit, and they said, man, we want our people trained. So, okay, what's the secondary goal? And they're like, man, we want to be able to use it to invite agents to, that we could have a follow-up conversation for agent attraction. Got it. So we're clear on goal number 1, goal number 2. So then when you're going through and you're building out the content and you're building out the agenda, you have to make sure that you're solving the goal, but then you're also layering in conversations in a panel format, asking questions that would lead in, that aligns to the offer and whatever the offer has to be. And that's one of the biggest things that I see, Albie, that, most people, they can pull off a great event, but there's no, what's the offer? You've got to tell people what you want them to do. What is the offer? And it can be anything, so that's where you want to be. And we'll get into a couple more dynamics of what was important to think about when you do an event, but you have to start there. What is goal number 1 and what is goal number 2?
So what I think would be great for people that are watching this to what they can come away with and stuff they can immediately deploy is what are some concepts that they can just swipe and use that we've used that are great. So let's just kind of reel off some concepts, and then, they can then maybe decide to pick one, or maybe it'll inspire them to think of their own, hearing the concepts that we've used in the past. And then let's go into what are the different offers they could offer. I was literally just on the phone with Megan down in Florida, and we were just talking about, she did an amazing event. She had over 102 or 105 people register for it, and then didn't have the offer at the end. So we know the next time that's the last piece. We're going to make sure that gets inserted in. But John, a couple concepts that come to mind. Obviously, we have Mike and Jay's Exponential Growth Summit, the big, huge event that they would do all the time. And it was an exponential growth summit, meaning to grow your business exponentially. And so people that attracted agents from all around the world who wanted exponential growth in their business. Another one is agent to CEO. That speaks to the agent who is ready to scale their business and step out of a sales role and into a role of the CEO of their company. And that's a great concept. Any concepts that were your favorites that you've heard over the years?
Yeah. So, and then we can talk about kind of the goal. So like EGS, the goal was to sell coaching, right? So, hey, to understand, for you to have exponential growth in all of these key facets, key areas, you're not going to get there. You can get there, but you can collapse time with a coach. So the offer was coaching. Agent to CEO is the same thing, but you could even splinter off of that a little bit and do agent to CEO mindset. That could be like a half a day. It could be a 2-hour. It could be a small event. It could be a 1 day. And really around the mindset that you have to become an agent to a CEO. Agent to CEO productivity. what does it take to go from an agent to be CEO of your business, and how do you maintain the allocation of your time and be productive? Financial business success, right? Most agents don't know how to run their business like a business and look at the financial aspects and how to structure it correctly. Mastermind, right? Just a true mastermind, not loosely throwing the word out there, but how can you collaborate? Two minds better than one, three better than two, and so on and so forth. You could take the Exponential Growth Summit and do an Exponential Growth Day, so you can collapse it down. And another one that I really like, because I was in this seat, you've had this seat, you had somebody in this seat, and it's really, number two, really, how do you grow your second in command, your chief of staff to, really graduate? How do you really help them, thrive as second in command? How do you really thrive through that? Because as you become bigger, you have to have that integrator. You've got to have that head of operations. You've got to have that chief of staff, whatever function and title that you want to give it. But those are all things that you think about within your business that you struggle with, that could be a great concept, and it could really help solve a problem. And the length of time varies, right? EGS was 3 days? Agent to CEO is 2 days. In a boot camp is 3 days. You could do a mindset one in 2 hours. You could do a productivity one in 2 hours. You can expand and collapse based upon, the objective and the goals. So just firing off some concepts and some ideas and some things that are definitely, really problem worthy to solve.
Sure. Yeah. And we're talking about day-long events. They could be 2-hour events. They could be, also, you can get them approved with the state of Ohio if it meets the requirements. And I know that you can also do CE. You can transfer or translate this training that you've built, this concept, as long as it touches on, the minimums that the state want with regard to real estate, which
Sure.
is not difficult at all.
Sure.
It could be 2 CE credits, continuing education. But again, going now back to, once you've nailed your concept, what's then going to be the offer? And so for most people that are doing events, if your primary goal is to educate and bring together a community around educating and adding value, that's great. That's a great primary goal. But most people that are going to be doing these events have a secondary goal. And that secondary goal is usually recruiting talent. And so, keeping that in mind, how do you attract talent? Well, then you have to have concepts to it that are attractive. You have to think, what would the talented people that I want to come to this event, what's their biggest rock in their shoe? And then, of course, we come to the offer. So, what we have found, and I don't know how many double your business live. Okay, so here's one more concept I'll give you, is double your business live.
Yep. So
double your business live workshop is a concept. And that's something that's taught in a matter of 2 hours. And, there's the best offer we've had at the end of those was a very simple survey. Surveys are great to use. Number one, they're easy.
Non-threatening.
What's that?
Non-threatening.
They're easy. You don't want to make them long and complicated. You want to make them easy. They should be able to do it in 1 minute or less. And so a 1 minute survey, quick 1 minute survey with a giveaway. Yeah. If you complete the 1 minute survey in the next 10 minutes, you're going to get this, whatever that is. Okay. And the goal is, we want them through that survey. We want to hear what's going on in between their ears, because they're not spitting it. We want to know what they feel about this, what they feel about that. Yeah. I'll pull up the survey that we have and share it. If you have anything to add to that.
Yeah. So, you always make an offer, even when you can't make an offer. I'll give you an example. So you and I both had the opportunity to share the stage at Build for Gove's event last year, and we couldn't pitch. You couldn't make an offer. You couldn't do anything like that from stage. However, I know the principle. You always make an offer. And so my offer there was I bribed them if they found some value in today's presentation, go to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe. And I bribed them, telling, Zane set it up, and I've got an agreement with Zane for every 100 subscribers, he gets $100 bill. So, right. But that was an offer. That was an offer. And so you've got to always have an offer. And, Gove's doing the West Coast tour. They're in Houston today. And, most people don't know, but, I have the opportunity to coach Andrew Franklin. And so Andrew and I were talking through the event strategy, and I said, what's the offer? And he kind of sat back for a second. He goes, shit. I was like, shit is right. What is the offer? And so he went to work last night on nailing the offer. He got on the phone with James. And so they have an offer that they're putting together. And so don't feel bad if you've missed this, but you've got to always have an offer in everything you do. Even on a podcast. Podcast is another event. You have to treat it like an event. You need to have an offer coming off of your podcast as well. So just giving some context, but yeah, please share the survey. Survey is one of my favorite.
It's a great point about the podcast. By the way, here's our survey. It's literally 1 minute long. It asks questions like, what should the agent split be with their broker? It's multiple choice. What should your company provide you with as an agent? Again, it's multiple choice. So it's getting inside their mind and trying to really find like where, because if there's an answer on here that they like that's not being matched up with where they're currently at, they're going to pick that, and it gives us something we can talk about when we follow up with them. And so literally it takes less than a minute to fill this out. Now you have their information, and you can have a different conversation with them now versus just following up with them and seeing what they thought about the event or what their biggest takeaway was, from the event. So any thoughts on, because you mentioned the podcast, right? So the other cool thing about concepts is that when you have a great concept, not only can it lead to a really great presentation, but it could also lead to a book. It could also lead to the title of a podcast. And the list goes on and on of how you can continually ride that concept and syndicate it into different media outlets, depending upon how people want to absorb your information. It can turn into a YouTube channel. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. It's just because it came up in conversation yesterday. Do you remember going through Jordan Belfort's straight line persuasion system? Yeah. Unbelievable. I think we paid 5 G's for it at the time.
Yeah.
And he did that. He recorded it, and then that became the program, right? He did it live. He recorded it. Then he had, throughout the thing, he had it transcribed. So now you had the workbook and the manual to go with it. And I'm telling you guys, it's the easiest way to create additional content is by doing an event, recording it. Then you can turn it into a downloadable program, use it as a lead magnet. You could have it transcribed. Now you have either a book or a workbook or a training manual to go along with it. And I mean, it's what we did with boot camp. It's what we've done with Agent to CEO. Everything that we do especially that I'm a part of moving forward, will be recorded. It'll be a training manual. It'll be a module. It's a program that you have. It's an asset. And you guys all on here, you have to think, hey, I'm doing this and I have my primary, secondary goal, but also how can I create an asset from here to create additional content to leverage in the future as a value add. So for example, you're on the podcast, like you said, and you said, hey, we touched on a lot of things today. We really hammered home on this one or two things, but we've also identified there's probably another half a dozen or more constraints from you to be able to grow your business. If you guys want to dive deeper and understand all of the constraints, you can go to XYZ, right? You can drive them there. Coach has a great one, right? Hey, some of you in this room are ready to go pro. If you're ready to go pro, here's my number. Text me, I'm in, or let's go pro, whatever you tell them. And then I like his approach. I got it's Jay Abraham's concept is that you give them an option. You give them one or two. So Jay Abraham's is work with Jay, 100,000 for a day to work with Jay. Most of you are not in position to do that, so you can go here, right? For 1,000, you can go here, and
Right.
you give them the high end, and then you give them the low end as an option. And so those are a couple ways to go about it.
John, I love the whole concept of what you just talked about, where what you had said is that you're not going to ever do another, especially like a new speaking engagement, a training of any kind, where it's not going to be recorded and then turned into a digital asset. And potentially, if you like it enough, a book and, going down the road with it. There are companies that can help get these types of things across the finish line and people that can do that. Do you know any off the top of your head that, could take you from concept all the way to book to, for people that are like, this is all great, John and Al, but where do I even start? Okay. I wrote down a couple great concepts. Where do I go from here with it?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is that you jump on board with somebody that is already doing events and have done them and working with somebody that understands the ins and outs. That's where you want to start. You don't want to try to tackle this beast by yourself in the beginning because you've got the promotional piece, you've got the financial component, which is the other part, right? What's the primary, secondary, and then how are you going to monetize this event? Because if you don't have a monetization strategy, you're not going to be doing the events much longer. And so my first recommendation is always get with somebody that has had success doing this, and then you start to see the components, and then you can piece the things together yourself. So try to borrow and get on as many stages and develop those connections, right, that you can, to help you go from there. And then you can kind of maybe align and partner with somebody to do one, and then you can step out there and do it on your own. So get on somebody's, partner with somebody to be on yours, and then you can make that next step and start doing it yourself. So get a few under your belt first to be able to do that. As far as the recording and things go, I've got Coach Code. We've got the Coach Code book in process, and we're using Dean Jackson. He has this 90-minute book process that you go through, and you answer a bunch of questions, they record it, they turn it into a book. I mean, it's just to create authority.
Sure.
You want to get a little bit up on the higher end, you could reach out to our man Nick Nanton. Nick can do that, but it's going to be a substantial investment.
Yeah.
So I think once you just kind of understand it, I know we've got a Zoom thing that we're putting together here next month that we'll do it via Zoom. Obviously, we'll record it all.
Yeah.
And like what Coach talks about is that you're looking for 6 or 7 different sessions, if you will. So if you guys have been a part of any of Coach's stuff, you'll notice how he'll break the day. Like if he'll do his deal, he'll have an all-day deal. He'll go for about 45 minutes, 15-minute break, go for about 45 minutes, 15-minute break, 45 minutes, 15-minute break, hour lunch, and then he just goes through, right? He hits 6 to 7 different sections, and those all become modules. If he likes it, he'll have it transcribed and turn into a book. A couple of his books were done just that way. And, just because we say, hey, you need a book doesn't mean that you got to sit down and, try to be a best-selling author. It's what the book does for you. You're not going to sell a bunch of books and make any money. You're going to use the book to help create authority and use it as a lead magnet to get your foot in the door to wherever you want to go.
Love it, man. That's great.
Yep, absolutely. So we got a question here, and then we can talk about some monetization stuff around events. If you miss the offer, yes, you can. I would make sure whatever you're doing for an event, you do some type of Eventbrite, some type of registration, even Zoom. Do a Zoom to where they have to register. So you have their name, their phone number, and their email. You created a lead. It's an opportunity for you to follow up with them. And time limit, coach's rule is 36 hours, is that if you do not get back in touch with them within 36 hours, they gone. And so you've got that short window. And that's out where I've seen so many people drop the ball on events. They can even have a great offer, but they don't follow up.
Right. Yeah. And if you miss the offer at the end of the event, it actually gives you a great reason to want to follow up just to see how the event was, and just say, hey, hey, Renee, it's Al. I was just calling to thank you for coming to our event. I'm just going through here because we're always looking to improve. And I was just curious, what is just the number one thing that you love best about it? If you don't mind sharing, Get them talking about what they love best about it. And lastly, don't take up a whole lot of their time. Would you do me a favor and take literally 1 minute and fill out this quick survey? It would mean the world to me. I was supposed to do it at the end of the event. I was so excited about the event. I completely forgot to put the link out there. But if I texted it to you right now, would you just take a minute real quick and just fill it out real quick? I'm curious. It's just market survey that I'm doing. Boom, get it over to them. And it's a good idea because a lot of people are just doing that randomly with the Rapid Funnel app. By the way, if you don't have the Rapid Funnel app offer, go to Rapid Funnel in your app store and download it and use the code word Honey Badger. And it has all of our assets from videos and trainings and everything that you're going to need for agent attractions in there. It's in that app, including the survey that I just showed you. And so people are doing that without even doing an event. So by building the authority and trust at an event, it makes it so much easier to, come in with that follow-up phone call.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So you guys have to have that. And even if you're just doing a straight, your event is 100% value add. Tina Call, right? So I had Tina on Expert Mentors a couple episodes ago, and we were talking about, her consistency, 36, 37, 38 weeks in a row of every week, 1 hour training. And so it's start on time, end on time, but she's driving them to come next week, right? She's not doing anything else, but the offer is, hey, if you found value and you want to keep this going, join us again next week. Boom.
Yep. Bring a friend.
Boom. That's it. So always pushing them to something, right? We learned that through Brian Carruthers. We've learned that through Coach. Every time that you have a conversation, you need to be thinking, what's the next step? Where are you pushing them to? When we talk three-way calls, you always push them to something. You do not let them get off the phone without going to the next step. You already have the next step in mind. And so that's really what we're saying here with the events, the content, anything, is that you've got to be pushing them somewhere, asking them to do something.
One other thing, and this may seem trivial to everybody, but it's super important. And it was just another nugget that I grabbed from when I was down in Nashville at the Sprint, and I got this from Jay and Ashley Nelson, and it's one word, and that's fun. Find a way of making your event fun. And I really, really mean that. I'm the biggest critic of myself. And I will tell you that I've had some fun events, and then I've had some events that just were, they were okay. The content was good, but they were just like, they weren't fun. And if you can bring energy and fun, even if you tripped over your words a bit, or you messed up on a module of teaching up there, or you didn't nail it like you thought you should have, if you bring that fun and excitement, enthusiasm, that Brent Gove enthusiasm, they're going to come back to the next one just based off that alone. It's hard to believe, but it's true. And so, one little way you can do that and keep the crowd engaged if you're doing a live presentation is to use a little, it's called the pro tip. And the pro tip is the pro tip. So throughout your presentation, what I would do, and I got this from Mike Reese, is you would put a slide in there that says pro tip, but right in the middle. It's kind of like it's like a
Pattern disrupt. It also gets them to make sure they're staying engaged, right? Wake them
Yes,
up.
it's a pattern disrupt. Correct. That's what I was looking to say. And Mike Reese's was really funny because his pro tip was more sauce.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the presentation, he said, "Hey, we're going to be doing a couple pro tips. I'm just going to give away my best stuff in these pro tips throughout the presentation. And if you see pro tip, I need you to all holler out more sauce." He'd have this entire room just screaming more sauce. You know, it's funny, but it was a pattern interrupt. It kept the people engaged and it created some fun. Mine was burn the boats because I started out with the mindset of, making a decision, burning the boats at the beginning. So that's also called a pre-frame because I'm pre-framing their mindset that they're going to make a big decision.
Yep.
That they should, thinking about giving them some context that making big decisions happen at events. And so I'm kind of pre-framing that for the end because I'm going to ask them to make a decision. The decision I'm going to ask them to make is, will you please take me up on this offer? This is the offer right here, the survey. But make it fun, and they will come back. One other tip I guess I could give is we used to do lunches. I'd go toward happy hours. And I know some people don't drink, I get all that, but there's more people that drink than don't in real estate. And happy hours always seems to nail it. I'm not saying you have to do a happy hour, but happy hours, let me put it this way, never failed me.
Yeah.
And if you start feeding people, not only does it get more expensive, but they also get tired sometimes. So just
if you're doing that and you want to stretch it out a little bit and you're looking for a couple monetization strategies, you could do a kind of a VIP piece to where if you do the event and then you could, upgrade to the VIP experience to where afterwards, that could be the VIP happy hour to where they get a little more one-on-one time with you, but it's also an additional monetization strategy. That's being awesome. to be able to go that route is good. Okay. Let me give you guys kind of the 4-step framework of laying out everything. So, hey, it's great. I'm getting all this. So how do I piece it all together as far as the actual event itself? As far as your presentation of things, and you reminded me of this when you talked about burn the boats, and it's the pre-frame, but it's the emotional connection. Do not go straight into educating without emotionally connecting with them, right? It's about connection. And so that's part of, the topic that we're talking about today is concepts and connections. You got to be able to connect. And, you tap into, coach, your belief system, what you believe, but also share a story. So you reference burn the boats. Mine, especially if I'm pushing people to some type of coaching relationship, I talk about being a coach's kid, right? Growing up in a locker room, having, observing what great coaching can do for another human being. And so that emotional connection, then you can go into the educational piece. What are you teaching them? So you got to connect with the heart first, then you can get in their head, and then you go to that call to action. Okay. Not at the end. You go call to action. What do you want them to do? Doesn't matter. Right. So for you, you've pre-framed it. You're emotionally connected with them, burn the boat. Sometimes you got to say no, you got to cut loose, all in. You educate them, then you're giving them something to do. That's a big decision. Hey, you told me you believed in burning the boats, so let's burn the boats. And then you've got to end with another heart, because people remember how you made them feel. And you connect with them in the beginning, and then you make them feel in the ending, at the very end, right? I gave you a call to action, and then what is one more emotional thing that I could do before we end to be able to tell that? And so, the one I like to use is, my Ironman story, tell the story of, my dad, and, hey, what's the, accomplish something big. And the worst thing for us as human beings is not setting a bigger goal. A lot of you in this room have achieved great things, and you've stopped. You haven't set the next big target. You're coasting. And I believe you're either growing or you're dying. And if coasting is not growing, then what's going on? What is that next big target? I set the deal. I tried to do it myself. I'm a coach. I can do this. I can figure it out. Man, I got in trouble. And that's where I knew I needed a coach, and we all need a coach.
I love it, man. So it's the story of origin. And then you end with another story, maybe not story of origin, but one that hits the heart, but kind of puts an exclamation point on the lesson that you want them to come away with.
Yes, 100%. That's how you nail it. That's Pete Vargas. That's his format. Pete is he's the mad scientist behind all of the greats that are on stage right now. He's Cardone. He's responsible for everything that goes on at 10X and Cardone. And that's the format. It's heart, head, call to action, heart. 4 steps. You have to have those 4 steps. Remember, right things, right order. That is the combination. And that's the actual content piece. So even no matter what you're doing, right? And let's talk a fun but a powerful event, Rock and Rescue, right? It's for a very amazing cause. You connect with them at their heart. You let them have fun. It's like, just a hell of a great experience. Then you're having them contribute, add value to a greater cause, and you end it by hitting them back in their heart, because you talk about the impact of what that event was able to do to raise the awareness around, trafficking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it made me think about, okay, what was the education piece in there? But I think it's almost, I don't want to use the word assumed. It's intrinsic, I guess. It's buried into the whole purpose why we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're not throwing a party. We're trying to have a positive impact on the community that we're in by helping women and children who are trafficked. So it's a great cause. So that, I mean, it's educating on that, I guess, standpoint.
Yeah, but then you also have the entertaining. And then you see what you were able to do, and you hit the inspire. So you hit all 3, right? Those are the 3 things that we're looking for. We're looking for, entertainment, we're looking for education, and we're looking for inspiration. And I mean, if you can pull all 3, that's the trifecta. You win with 2, you're good with 1. So if you can try to get, two of those 3 at any given time, but if you nail all 3 with Rock and Rescue, you hit all 3. You do. And that's why it's such a huge success, and it's only going to keep getting bigger. Yep.
I just got off a call with Steve and Kathy Strickland, who are, circling around the wagon, wanting to do a Rock and Rescue. That's a concept that I didn't come up with. It was actually a concept that Chad Goldwasser started down in Austin, Texas, and it was called Rock and Restock. And so you can do that. Rock and Restock is a great charity event. It's a rock concert combined with restocking the shelves of the food bank of wherever you live. And for us, it's up here in Cleveland. So we were doing the Cleveland Food Bank. Rock and Restock is how we started it. And we shifted that over to a different charity of Rock and Rescue, because we felt like the funds were more needed. So you could do charity events, whether it be golf, or we just did a hockey game, which you got with Holly and Zane. And that was benefiting was a place called Project NICU, where where the families that have preemie babies get stuck in the NICU unit, sometimes for months after the baby's born, but they don't have basics like clothes, food, snacks, dinners, and stuff like that. So it was just a cool thing. And we went out, did a hockey game, and invited all bunch of mortgage people, and really it was anyone who's involved in real estate could skate, if they could skate. And we just went out and had a good time, and it was fun.
It was awesome.
So you're hitting that fun factor. You're hitting that heart factor, like what you were saying. And man, have fun doing it. I mean, we've talked about this for years. This is going all the way back to the Kinnery's coaching days. Is if it ain't fun, we're not interested.
That's right.
Truth. So have fun with it. Enjoy it. Don't overthink it. I get caught in OT, overthinking mode sometimes. And I just have to have that awareness of kicking me out of that mode. But awesome, man. By the way, my calendars, if you want to come to our event, Rock and Rescue 2022 will be September 8th. And we're also doing a agent to CEO 2 days before that. So you'd be
September 7th and 8th. We'll actually do day 2 will be the day of the event. So we'll cap off agent to CEO with Rock and Rescue that evening.
Yes, Cleveland, Ohio. Details are to come soon. We're lining up some really great artists right now as we speak. So stay tuned. But if you're listening to this live, mark your calendars for those dates, 7th and 8th of September.
Fly in on the 6th, be there all day on the 7th, all day 8th, Rock and Rescue that night, fly out the next day.
Come dance.
Come dance. I love it. Brother, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for jumping in, adding a ton of value. I know that this is on a lot of people's minds, and, you know, we can help them shortcut the learning process and have fun with it, and something that they could, you know, make it a sustainable, consistent part of their business efforts of growing their business and really, you know, anything that they're looking to accomplish. So,
by the way, one more quick plug. Speaking of Renee has an amazing event next week in Cleveland on Thursday. Would it be okay if she put her link to that event in the comments?
100%.
It's on Airbnbs. So, you know, it's just another opportunity to add value on a really great topic, which is how to earn a passive income stream, maximize your rental earning percentage, and never have to worry about an eviction, you know, and have rental properties and grow your little empire. She's going to break it. Her and her husband, Albert, have built their own little empire, and they're giving everybody the keys to the kingdom next week. Yep. So come check that out if you're interested. I can't wait. I'm going because I can't wait to learn. I have apartment buildings and love the passive income that brings in. But this is where you can earn some serious money and not have to ever worry about an eviction. So come check that out.
I love it. Absolutely. Awesome. All right, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. See you.